From A&E, this is Biography.
The Battle of Jalalabad marked the end of a decade of fighting. The Afghans reclaimed their country, but at a terrible price. Then, in November of 1989, Sheikh Hazam was assassinated in a car bomb attack. Now, with his spiritual leader dead and the Russians gone, bin Laden finally returned home to Saudi Arabia at the age of 32.
And he's quite a hero. And he's a hero to his family. He's a hero to mujahideen from all over the Islamic world. And he's a homecoming hero to the Saudis. And in the House of Saud, the Saudi royal family, he is regarded very highly.
Bin Laden tried to return to his old life, working for the family construction company. But soon his extremist views brought him into conflict with the royal family, with whom he had once shared close ties. The hostility came to a head on August 2nd, 1990, when Iraq invaded Saudi Arabia's neighbor, Kuwait. The Saudis feared they would be next. Bin Laden understood the threat that this posed to his homeland. But when the Saudi government turned to the United States for military assistance, he fiercely protested the decision. In his eyes, it was making a pact with the infidel. He claimed America was only concerned with safeguarding its interest in Arabian oil. He warned that once American troops were in Saudi Arabia, they would never leave. He worried that the United States would use the Arabian Peninsula as a staging area to protect Israel, the enemy to much of the Arab world. And he bristled at a non-Muslim power attacking another Muslim country, Iraq. Osama bin Laden wielded great influence with the public because of his role in the Afghan war, and the Saudi government started putting pressure on him to stop his criticism. They threatened to retaliate against his family and bankrupt the bin Laden company. Osama bin Laden was placed under house arrest for a time in Jeddah.
They begin to view him as a threat because he's criticizing the government for its arrangements with the West. He's warned to leave, he's told that his life is in danger, and he leaves.
In April of 1991, 34-year-old Osama bin Laden fled to Afghanistan and then moved on to the Sudan, where a militantly Islamic government had taken power. It was here that Osama bin Laden became one of the most powerful and radical voices in the Islamic world. By the mid-1990s, bin Laden's jihad movement was gaining momentum, and his name was frequently associated with terrorist activities. In 1994, the Saudi government revoked bin Laden's citizenship and moved to freeze his assets. His family then disavowed him. American officials now began pressing Sudan to eject bin Laden. According to U.S. intelligence, he was financing terrorist training camps in northern Sudan as well as in northern Yemen. The Saudis were also lobbying to have him thrown out of his Sudanese base. In May of 1996, the government of the Sudan expelled Osama bin Laden under pressure from the United States and Saudi Arabia. Bin Laden returned to Afghanistan, where he helped the fundamentalist Islamic group, the Taliban, in their attempt to control the country. They would soon be joining him in making Afghanistan the home base for his vision of global jihad. Non-Taliban veterans of the Afghan war were also still loyal to bin Laden and now rallied around him. His threat of violence escalated dramatically in 1998 when bin Laden called for a jihad against the Jews and others he called crusaders. He said Americans, including civilians, should be killed by Muslims anywhere in the world. His order was delivered as a fatwa, or religious ruling.
He uses the practice of fatwa in order to serve his political ideology and to legitimize his own goal and his own front.
This investment in terrorism had terrible consequences. On August 7, 1998, the 8th anniversary of the arrival of U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia, there were massive explosions at the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. Authorities were stunned by the magnitude of the assault, found to be the work of members of al-Qaeda, bin Laden's network.
They're a heck of a lot more organized and disciplined than a lot of people will give them credit for. I think you have to have an infrastructure in place for some time. There's a lot of planning, and those were planned for a long time.
The devastation was enormous in Nairobi. 213 people, including 12 Americans, died, and 4,500 people were wounded. The bomb in Dar es Salaam killed 11 and injured 85. After the bombings in Africa, Osama bin Laden was public enemy number one. In August of 1998, a group of advisors informed President Clinton that they had reason to believe bin Laden was planning to acquire chemical and biological weapons to use against U.S. installations. The White House was looking to retaliate.
The United States launched an attack this morning on one of the most active terrorist bases in the world. It is located in Afghanistan and operated by groups affiliated with Osama bin Laden.
The president also gave the order to bomb a pharmaceutical company in the Sudan, believed to be financed by bin Laden. In November of 1998, the United States brought indictments against bin Laden and other suspected terrorists with numerous charges, including the bombing of the U.S. embassies in Africa and other acts of terrorism against Americans abroad. The U.S. now offered a $5 million reward for any information leading to bin Laden's arrest. Osama bin Laden may have been a man on the run, but he was also now a public figure. Surviving the U.S. bombing raid made him an icon to some in the Muslim world.
Almost nobody in Afghanistan ever heard of Osama bin Laden. Almost no one throughout the Muslim world had heard of Osama bin Laden. Now everyone has heard of Osama bin Laden. Osama has become a major symbol. For instance, in the areas of Pakistan next to Afghanistan, Osama has become the most popular name for baby boys.
On October 12, 2000, the USS Cole, a state-of-the-art billion-dollar warship, was refueling in the port of Aden in Yemen. 2 men in a small craft pulled alongside in a suicide bombing attack. A huge hole was blown in the side of the ship, killing 17 U.S. naval personnel and injuring many more. Later, reports from Yemeni officials said that 5 suspects in the Cole attack admitted to being trained in bin Laden's camps. On May 29th of 2001, 4 men were convicted in New York for their role in the 1998 U.S. embassy bombings in Nairobi and Dar es Salaam. But Osama bin Laden, the man prosecutors say ordered the bombings, continues to find ways to elude those dedicated to his capture.
Attack on America, a special edition of NBC Nightly News. Terrorists declare war on the United States, hijacking jetliners, crashing them into New York's World Trade Towers. Another airliner into the Pentagon, threatening the seat of national power. Thousands likely dead. Downtown New York in chaos. America wondering, what next?
عدد الذين في الطائرة بالنسبة للأبراج قلنا عدد الذين سيصطدم بهم هذه الطائرة 3-4 مرات هكذا. فهذا كان حسابي، وكنت أكثرهم تفاؤلا، طبيعة المهنة يعني أعمال كذا. فقلت الوقود الذي في الطائرة سوف يوصل الحديد إلى درجة الاحمرار، وبالتالي يفقد خواصه. وضرب من هنا، فبالتالي العمارة من الجزء المضروب هناك أعلى.
Breaking news. news this morning. Osama bin Laden is dead, killed in Pakistan by US Special Forces in the city of Abbottabad near Islamabad. The al-Qaeda leader had been in hiding since masterminding the 9/11 attacks in 2001, killing almost 3,000 people.